I dove into Meghan Markle's latest culinary adventure from as ever with a simple goal in mind, to enjoy the fun of cooking instead of chasing a perfect result. The outcome? A mix of surprise, laughter, and a few aha moments that I never expected. Meghan is back on our screens with her new cookery and lifestyle show, With Love, Meghan, now streaming on Netflix. This series isn't just about recipes, it's a full guide to gardening, hosting, and cooking, shared with the help of her friends and guests. Even though the former Suits star has faced plenty of criticism over the years, her ideas are clearly sparking interest. In fact, since the show dropped, a popular grocery chain has seen a jump in searches for everything from edible flowers and assorted fruit platters to bruschetta and even bath salts. I have to admit, I never paid much attention to these items until Meghan came along. Could this be the spark that turns everyday cooking into a playful art? According to the Netflix description, the series is all about sprinkling a bit of joy into the everyday and choosing fun over flawlessness. That sounded like my kind of cooking adventure. So I decided, there's only one way to see if these recipes really work, by trying them myself. I chose a mix that included focaccia, pasta salad, salt-baked fish, carrot top pesto, and a show-stopping honey lemon layer cake with raspberry. With a shopping list that felt almost as long as a grocery aisle, I grabbed a trolley at Waitrose and set off on a mission to track down every single ingredient. Trolley brimming with produce and pantry must-haves, I returned home buzzing with excitement. Would this playfulness over perfection idea turn into delicious food, or would I end up with a plate full of hype? There was only one way to find out. Carrot top pesto. I decided to start with the carrot top pesto, mainly because it seemed the simplest of the bunch. I thought, how hard can making pesto be? Yet, the twist of using carrot tops, those leafy extras from expensive organic carrots at Waitrose, added a fun challenge. I arranged the carrots on a tray, drizzled them with olive oil, and sprinkled some seasoning before letting them roast until golden. Meanwhile, I gathered the rest of the ingredients for the pesto. Into the blender went the fresh carrot greens, a handful of pine nuts, toasted after a brief little struggle, crisp basil leaves, a splash of lemon juice, a clove of garlic, and a generous amount of Parmesan. The directions were a bit fuzzy on the cheese, suggesting either to taste or roughly a quarter cup, leaving me torn between following the rules and making it my own. For a moment, I felt a twinge of annoyance at the lack of specifics, but then I remembered that a bit of freedom often leads to the best flavors. I mixed everything, adding olive oil to deepen the taste, extra lemon for a zesty kick, and even a few basil leaves when it looked too thin. Those extra 5 minutes of playful tweaking paid off. As the roasted carrots finished, I marveled at the vibrant, smooth pesto that promised to be a wonderful side or dip. So far, Meghan's idea was winning me over. What's next? Focaccia. Next, I tackled the focaccia featured in the Love is in the Details episode, a segment that also teased lavender cooling cloths and even homemade dog treats, though I saved those for another day. I had baked bread before, but focaccia was a whole new venture that made me both excited and a little nervous. I hoped that if my carrot pesto had been a hit, this bread might be just as enjoyable. One immediate hiccup was that the recipe used cups for measurements, a system more common in the US. As a cook used to different measurements, I found myself pausing to convert, then checking and rechecking each ingredient. Anyone who's ever baked bread knows that getting the dough and rising time just right is key. I mixed flour, instant yeast, water, and oil as instructed, but soon realized I had mistakenly used only half the flour I needed. A quick correction and I was back on track. I covered the dough with a towel and let it rise for 2 hours, then moved it to a tin to rise once more. The fun part came next, dimpling the dough with my fingers, drizzling olive oil, scattering rosemary, and adding a pinch of salt before baking. When I finally took it out of the oven, I found the focaccia a bit thin with crispy edges, probably due to my tin size and the oven's heat. Still, it tasted amazing. In true Meghan style, the focus was on enjoying the process rather than achieving perfection. Could this imperfect bread become my new favorite treat? Pasta salad. From the same episode, I decided to try the pasta salad next, even though my husband joked that pasta salad hardly ever needs a recipe. I teased him back, insisting that maybe Meghan's version had a special twist. This recipe felt unexpectedly dreamy as it asked me to chill some of the green vegetables in a bowl of ice-cold water to give them a crisp shock. I couldn't help but wonder, isn't a bowl of cold water just that? Soon after, I was told to salt the boiling water for the pasta until it tastes of the sea. I found myself questioning, couldn't they just tell me exactly how much salt to use? Despite these quirky instructions, the overall process was straightforward and inviting. I tossed in a colorful mix of green spring vegetables, Swiss chard, kale, zucchini, or courgette, as some call it, and sugar snap peas, along with a zesty vinaigrette and plenty of fresh herbs. I skipped the step about using English peas, shelled, and went with frozen peas instead, because who really has the time to shell fresh ones? The abundance of herbs made me chuckle, imagining them wilting away in the fridge in just a few days, yet I couldn't help but hope this adventure might inspire me to add a sprig of thyme or mint to every meal. Finally, I combined the veggies with pasta and crumbled a generous amount of feta cheese over the top, trying my best to channel my inner Meghan without making a cheesy mess. In the end, the pasta salad turned out impressively fresh, earning a reluctant nod of approval from my husband. Was it possible that such a simple dish could feel so special? Salt-baked fish with roasted tomatoes. Then came the salt-baked fish with roasted tomatoes, a dish that promised both drama and deliciousness. The show's website mentioned that when Meghan hosts her longtime friends, she opts to cook the fish fresh, saying, "What would be the fun in making it ahead?" Instead, she pulls everyone into the kitchen to laugh and enjoy the cooking process. I wasn't sure my own friends and family would jump into that kind of excitement, so I prepared the dish in advance. A little hiccup arose when I had to figure out what a branzino was. A quick search revealed it was just another name for sea bass. However, my usual store, Waitrose, didn't carry whole sea bass, so I headed to the Great Cornish Food Store instead. Their friendly staff informed me of a bass ban running from February to March to protect breeding stocks, so bass was off the table. They suggested that sea bream, freshly caught that morning, would work just as well. With a shrug to Meghan's original plan, I pressed on. Although the idea of cooking a whole fish felt a bit intimidating, the recipe itself was simple. I mixed a hefty amount of coarse salt with water to create a firm bed, then laid the fish on top, stuffing it with olive oil, slices of lemon, and a generous heap of fresh herbs. I sprinkled more of the salty mix over the fish before tucking it into the oven, while on a separate tray, tomatoes on the vine were tossed with lemon, olive oil, and seasoning. In just 25 minutes, the magic happened. The salt crust turned beautifully crisp and the fish cooked perfectly inside. Peeling away the crust, skin, and fillets was not an easy task. Blame it on my clumsy fingers rather than the recipe. Still, as I arranged the fish on a platter with the roasted tomatoes, extra lemon wedges, and more herbs, I couldn't help but smile at how closely it matched the picture online. Am I turning into a true believer in playful cooking? Honey lemon layer cake with raspberry. The final challenge was a grand honey lemon layer cake with raspberry, taken from episode 1, Hello, Honey, featuring Meghan's makeup artist and close friend Daniel Martin. The cake, with its 3 layers held together by creamy buttercream, looked like a mix of a showstopper and a cozy treat. If I could handle a whole fish, I figured I could manage this dessert. I began by baking 3 light sponges made from flour, sugar, eggs, baking powder, olive oil, milk, and honey. Although I was a bit skeptical, all 3 sponges emerged beautifully, and trimming off their rounded tops turned them into delightful snack-sized pieces. The baking itself turned out to be the easiest part, as did brushing each sponge with a tangy honey and lemon syrup before stacking them. Then came the buttercream, a whole different challenge. My conversion from cups had me making way too much, and half of it ended up splattered all over the kitchen. I was also frustrated to find that the list had forgotten to mention the raspberry preserve needed between the layers, not to mention fresh raspberries for topping off the cake. The plan was to pipe the buttercream and raspberry preserve in lovely spirals between the layers to reveal a pretty cross-section when sliced. But my makeshift piping bag just wouldn't cooperate, and running low on patience and raspberry jam from the back of the fridge, I decided to spread the buttercream by hand with a spatula. After all, it was all about having fun, not getting every detail perfect. When the cake was finally done, it didn't look exactly like the picture, but one bite proved it tasted just as good. Another small win on this unpredictable journey. I started this whole mission thinking the recipes might flop or leave me disappointed. In the end, each dish, though sometimes vague and a little freeform, worked in its own way. Were these recipes groundbreaking or innovative? Not really. Meghan isn't the first celebrity to share familiar recipes, but her focus on fun in the kitchen really struck a chord with me. It's kind of ironic to see someone based in California reminding us all to keep our cooking lighthearted and playful. So, thank you, Meghan. It's been a fun, bumpy ride from start to finish. While I might not be racing back to try every single recipe immediately, I can't help but wonder what other kitchen adventures lie ahead. The question remains, will this playful spirit continue to inspire us in our everyday meals?